If I handed you a taser and offered you $10 to tase yourself, would you do it? Would you do it if I offered you $100? Would you do it for $1 million? So somewhere between $0 and $1 million, you, like most people, would take me up on the offer and agree to be tased. Alright, so let's make things a bit more interesting by placing the choice for how much you will get in your hands. Alright, so let's say I give you a sealed envelope which contains a check from me. And I tell you that it's yours to keep now and you can open it anytime you want. But I also give you the taser. And before you open the envelope to see the value of the check, I tell you the following. I tell you that I know what type of person you are and I know how you think. Because what I've been doing the last few days is collecting all of your social media profiles and feeding them into the super advanced new AI called ChatGPT version 400. So yeah, a much more advanced version than we have right now. It's just a hypothetical example, so roll with me here, please. Alright, so this super advanced AI has had the time to go over your entire online presence. All your likes, dislikes, heart emojis, angry faces, everything. And it has created an in-depth psychological profile of you. And not just that, it also has access to your DNA from a strand of your hair that I secretly picked up and had sequenced. So this AI now knows your psychological profile and your genetic makeup. Basically, this AI knows you better than you know yourself. So yesterday, I asked this AI what you would do if I gave you this envelope and the taser. And I asked the AI if you would tase yourself before opening the envelope. In fact, I asked if you would tase yourself 10 times before opening the envelope, and it told me whether you would. Now you might be asking yourself, why on earth would I tase myself? I already have the check in my hand. Okay, so that's the right question to ask, but the answer is that because I wrote the amount on the check based on whether or not you would tase yourself. Let me explain. And remember, this is the choice you have to make before you open the envelope and see the value of the check. If the AI told me that you would tase yourself 10 times before opening the envelope, I made the check out to be $1 million. But if the AI told me that you would not tase yourself 10 times, I voided the check so that it would be worth nothing. So now that you have the check in your hand, a check that I filled out yesterday and had it sealed since then, what will you do? Will you tase yourself multiple times before opening it? Or will you just open the envelope without tasing yourself? Because on the one hand, the check has already been filled in, the ink has dried out, the envelope is sealed. What difference does it make now whether or not you tase yourself, right? I mean, how can tasing yourself now in any way change the number on the check in your hand right now? It obviously can't, right? But on the other hand, this AI is really advanced, so it knows what you would choose to do. In fact, it has never been wrong. I have tested the same scenario on dozens of people before you, and every time the AI knew exactly what the person would do. It knows the people who, when presented with the check, go through that exact same thought process. They think to themselves that they cannot possibly change what was written on the check yesterday, so there's no point in tasing themselves now. And for this lack of faith, they are rewarded accordingly with $0. So what will you do? Will you repeatedly tase yourself before opening the envelope, or will you just open the envelope? The choice is yours. Or is it? Is the choice really yours? Because if the AI knows exactly what you will do you even have a choice at this point? If it knows precisely how you think, is aware of even your slightest inclinations, and it knows all your motivations and impulses, and it has predicted in detail what will go through your mind today, and remember, it is never wrong. Can you still choose other than what it predicted? Because remember, every choice you make is the result of a series of thoughts and feelings going through your mind that eventually accumulate to a point which then makes you act in one way or another. So if all your thoughts and emotions can be accurately predicted well ahead of time, then do you really have a choice on whether or not you would think those thoughts? And given that your actions are a direct consequence of your thoughts, can they be freely chosen, given that your thoughts aren't freely chosen? So this scenario here is a variant of a very famous philosophical problem called Newcomb's paradox. I've modified it a bit to emphasize what I think is its most significant implication, the conflict between omniscience and free will. Because if an omniscient entity knows every tiny thought and feeling going through your mind, and has in fact known them long before they ever occurred, then can you possibly prevent those thoughts from occurring? And if you cannot, then can you prevent your actions that are based on those thoughts from occurring? In other words, does omniscience leave us any room for free will? And remember, it doesn't matter what that omniscient entity is. In my example here, I've used a hypothetical advanced AI as that entity, which makes it somewhat unrealistic since nothing of the sort exists right now. But am I really talking about AI here? Have you figured out yet what this AI is a metaphor for? If you have, then congratulations. But ask yourself this: did you have a choice in figuring that metaphor out? That is, could you have chosen to not figure out what that metaphor represented? And at what point would you have made that choice to not recognize that metaphor? In fact, are you even freely choosing the thoughts going through your mind right now?